How do you put this whole story of Goa Inquisition? We have heard so much about Islamic brutalities. Where does Goa Inquisition figure here? Okay, here's the tweet. Okay. Savio, did the Goa Inquisition happen? Yes. Was it brutal? Yes. Should the pontifex apologize? No. That's the question. Yes. Should we hate existing Christians for sins of the past? No. Accept the truth, reconcile. After all, we are Indians and move on. And also, one of the reasons why Savio says that pontifex should apologize is because he's done it in other geographies, but not in India. Okay, so we go straight to Shefali ji. So, how do you look at this whole Inquisition in the context of foreign invasions in India?
Thank you, Sanjay ji, for calling me here. And I'm sorry that I'm going to be here only for a short while, even though I would have loved to watch the entire discussion. But I have an early morning tomorrow and I've had very long days. Anyway, to go to the subject, actually, it's very sad that many people in India and to some extent some people in Goa also, even today, don't know that Goa was the first Indian territory to be colonized by a by a European power, the Portuguese, and it was the last to be liberated. So we all know about how the British ruled India and how the Indian freedom struggle happened and all of that. But not many people know that the Portuguese came to India in 1510 and they left only in 1961. That's a whopping 450 plus years of foreign rule and an extremely brutal foreign rule actually. As you rightly said that right now there is a lot of stuff being talked about about the Islamic persecutions and the Islamic genocide of the Hindus and how the Islamic invaders forced worst kind of abuses on the Hindus, but not much is being talked about the Goan history and what happened in Goa and how the Jesuit missionaries, with the help of the Portuguese king of those times, and how they basically repressed, oppressed, and forcibly converted large populations of Goa to Christianity by using every possible means, by using the carrot approach as well as the stick approach, by bribing people, by offering them monetary rewards, by giving them government jobs and a lot of advantages of convergence, and also by force, by telling people that they have 1 month to stay in Portuguese territory and keep their lands, but only if they want to convert. If they don't, then their lands will be taken away from them. They'll be persecuted. They'll be even killed. So they had only one choice, which is to be killed to get converted or to flee. Which was incidentally exactly the same choice given to the Kashmiri Hindus in the 1990s in exactly these three terms. Ki either you, if you want to live here, you convert, otherwise you flee, or you get killed. Those were the same choices that were offered to the Goan Hindus as well. And we all know because of that, there was a huge exodus of Goan people outside of Goa and to the parts of Goa which were not controlled by Portuguese then. And my family was one of those people who basically migrated from their ancestral village of Verna, where their family deity Mahalsa was there. She was a Gramadevata at that point of time. And when the temple was destroyed, they chose to save their dharma and move to Kunkulim, our present village, because that was a village at that time not under the Portuguese rule. So they moved there with just their clothes on their back and whatever little valuables they could afford, and they left their land, they left everything that ever, whatever ever meant to them in their old village, and they started life with nothing really. And this is not just my story alone. This story of Goa and what happened in Goa is the story that relates to every person in Goa today. It doesn't matter whether the person is Hindu or Catholic. Even Savio's family is affected by this story as much as my family has, which is why Savio today is Savio Rodriguez and I am today Shefali Vaidya. It is a result of the choices that our ancestors made, and everyone knows about it. But the point is, every Goan Christian or Hindu knows that this thing happened, but very few people know about the sheer scale of the brutality and what happened. Very few Goans today know that in 1 year, 300 temples, over 300 temples in Bardez district were destroyed, and in the next year, over 300 temples in the Salsette district were destroyed in just 1 year. You cannot imagine that scale of destruction. You cannot imagine the kind of torture and pain that the Goan people went to. And some of them succumbed to the pressure, some of them converted, people converted because of various reasons. And I am not going to judge them about for what they did 450 years ago. But the point is, even after they got converted, even after they become officially Christian, their ordeal was not over. The Hindus' ordeal, of course, continued. They were forced to leave Goa. They were forced to seek refuge in areas that were not under Portuguese rule at that point of time. A lot of people, hundreds of thousands of them, moved to Mangalore belt and coastal Karnataka. A lot of them also moved to coastal Kerala. That is why you find a community of Konkani speaking people all along the coast, actually, all the way from the coast of Maharashtra to Kerala. But the Christians who got converted to Christianity also were not spared the torture. Francis Xavier, when he came to Goa and when he started his proselytizing, he realized that the rate of conversion was very slow. And secondly, even when people got converted to Christianity, they were not really following the religion the way he thought it was meant to be followed. He felt that people relapsed back to their older religion. They continued with the same cultural practices, same religious practices. So he actually wrote to the King of Portugal, and this is published in his own correspondence, where he has officially written to the King of Portugal and said that the court of inquisition should be established in Goa to punish the Christians who have converted to Christianity but who continue to practice their religion in secret. It is true that the Court of Inquisition was established in Goa after Francis Xavier died, but having said that, it doesn't absolve him of the blame that he was the one who first wrote the letter to the King of Portugal asking for a Court of Inquisition to be established in Goa. And nobody can deny that. And I can quote instances from Xavier's correspondence with page numbers and everything, where he has very clearly said that he derives the greatest pleasure by getting the children converted to Christianity and then taking them back to their own villages and making them destroy their own temples and to break the murtis of their older gods. And nothing gives him greater pleasure than that. I can quote the whole thing, but that is the truth. But the point is, this history is not mainstream. It is a history that very few people, even in Goa, know in such details because it's not included in the school books. It is not being talked about openly. And it's only when somebody cares to do a PhD in history or MA in history and they want to take a paper of Goan history, that's when they really come to know about what really happened in Goa. I was, call it fortunate, call it unfortunate, whatever. I was exposed to this sad history very early in life because Erka Priolkar, the person who has written the Goa Inquisition, the Terrible Tribunal of Torture, which is even today one of the most well-researched books on the topic, he's related to me, and I read this book very early in life when I was in 12, when I was 12 or 13, I think. And even though at that point of time I didn't understand the gravity of the situation or didn't understand the book fully, but whatever I did read affected me very deeply. And the more I started to study about it, the more I started to read about it, the more revolted I was. And this is a fact that has been acknowledged by so many historians, both Goan as well as in Portuguese historians. There are official Portuguese documents which still talk about the decrees, the infamous decrees, which basically said that these are the offenses that could get the converted Christians hauled to the court of inquisition. And the offenses were so simple. It was like you could not have given betel leaves to other people, which is a very common Hindu practice. You could not sing a particular song called Ovio during your weddings, which was again a Hindu cultural practice. You should not find a tulsi plant either planted or growing naturally in your backyard. If you do that and your neighbor complains against you, then you could be hauled to the court of inquisition. If you wore an Indian outfit like a sari or a dhoti in secret, even in your home, forget about going outside, even then you could be hauled to the court of inquisition. It was so little tiny little things which are a part of the culture of the everyday culture, everyday life of the Hindus. They were considered to be sins, they were considered to be outlawed, and people were hauled up to the court of inquisition because of that. They were tortured there, and we have a first person contemporary account of what went on in the house of torture, in the house of inquisition, by a French traveler, French doctor actually. He was arrested and he spent about a year in the court of inquisition, and he witnessed a ceremony called auto da fe, where some of the people who did not so-called quote unquote repent, they were burnt alive in front of everybody in a public ceremony. So he witnessed one such ceremony and he wrote about it. And Charles Talon was his name. And because of his book, and because it's a contemporary first person account of what actually happened in the court of inquisition, we today have an authentic picture of the tortures that were carried out in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of love, by Jesuit missionaries and by the Portuguese. And my question is, why is this truth being hidden? And as Savio very rightly pointed out, that the Pope has apologized for all the injustice that the Church has done in the name of religion, all the injustice the Catholic Church has done in the name of religion everywhere. They have apologized to the Rwandans, they were apologized to the Jews, they were apologized to the American Indians. So why is India not demanding justice? Why are Indians not demanding justice? Why are Indians not saying that the Pope should apologize? He should acknowledge the sins of the church. And most importantly, they should agree that in place of all the big churches that stand in Goa today, almost all of them, there once were temples. At least there should be acknowledgement. Today, if you go to any Goan temple, Goan Hindu temple, you will find in their history books narrations of how the Holocaust happened, how the original temple was destroyed, and how some people from that village, they risked life and limb and they saved the murti and they carried the Utsav murtis and the Mula murtis all the way from Portuguese territories to the new location. And how the local people there gave them land and the temples were rebuilt in these places. In my own adopted village, so to speak, where my ancestors moved when their ancestral temple was destroyed in Verna of Sri Malsa Narayani, they moved to this village of Kunkulim, which incidentally, Savio is also from the same village complex. So, in a way, we share a lot more history, to tell you the truth. And the people of that village, they actually were the first people anywhere in the Indian subcontinent to arise and to revolt against a Portuguese colonizer and to have an armed fight. And there was a fight in Kunkulim, and there were some Portuguese soldiers as well as missionaries who were killed. And after that, there was a big battle, and the memories of that battle are still alive in the village of Kunkulim. There are places in Kunkulim called Zuzegar. Zuz means war, and Gar means it's an alley. It's an alley where the war between the local chieftains and the Portuguese soldiers took place. And after that, my village was completely destroyed multiple times. The chieftains were called for talks, peace talks in the fort of Asolna, and they were told that they would be given free passage and they would be told that the talks were for establishing peace. But the Portuguese, by deceit, killed all of them. Out of all the chieftains, only one managed to jump into the river and he managed to escape. And that's how the story of this massacre came to be known. So this is the sordid history of Goa, and this is the history that is shared by every Goan today. It does not matter what is the religion of that person these days. And why is there no acknowledgement? Why is there no acceptance? Because only when you accept the past, only when you accept and open the wounds of the past, can you heal and move on. By hiding the wounds, by hiding the truth, you cannot really move on. That's just, like putting a band-aid on a gangrene. You have to do something about it. So that is my question. Why has there been no acknowledgement? Nobody is saying, and I concur with Savio in his tweet. I am not saying that today's Christians are responsible for the decisions that were taken by their ancestors 450 years ago. It's not their fault. and they were not the ones who destroyed the temples. But having said that, there should be acceptance, and there should be acceptance from the church, saying that yes, we did it. It was a terrible thing to do, and we ensure that such a thing will not happen again. That is the kind of accountability which the church has given to other cultures, which it has given to other geographies, but it has not given it to the Hindus of Goa and even to the Christians of Goa who were tortured. In fact, a lot of Christian families also migrated to Mangalore. So that is why you have a huge population of Konkani speaking Mangalore Christians. Why did they migrate? Because their families did face the torture in the House of Inquisition. Robert Rosario has been fighting tirelessly on this topic and for seeking justice for his ancestors who were forced to flee the land of Goa and go to Mangalore because they feared going to the House of Inquisitions and getting tortured. The question is, all this history is documented. There is proof. There is proof everywhere. There is proof in Portuguese records. There is proof in written down by so many historians. This has been written about by so many Christian thinkers in Goa. T.B. Kunna has referred to it in his writings. But why is this history A not taught to the children? B, why is this history not acknowledged? And C, why is the Catholic Church not apologizing for this?